She fumbled with her keys, her hands shaking, as she tried to unlock the front door. She had rushed home from work, ignoring the look from her co-workers and the missed calls from her mother. Her heart pounded in her chest, a deep sense of dread filling her as she pushed the door open. The silence inside the house was deafening. No soft cries, no sound of tiny feet kicking the air, just silence. Ebuka, her voice cracked, calling out to her baby boy as though he could answer. Her breath hitched as she stumbled towards the crib. The world around her blurred as she lost sight of him. The baby she had left behind for 8 hours to chase a paycheck was gone. Tears filled her eyes as the weight of her decision crushed her soul. Joy was a young mother living in Lagos, Nigeria. At just 22, she had no family to rely on for help. Her mother lived in the village, and Joy's friends were as young and busy as she was. She had given birth to her son, Chukwuebuka, only 2 months ago. Though it was hard, she loved him deeply, but love didn't pay bills. Her job as a receptionist in a law firm was her only source of income. The firm had strict rules, and Joy's boss was ruthless. When she got the call to cover a shift last minute, her mind was torn. She knew leaving her baby alone was risky, but the threat of losing her job loomed larger. She couldn't afford a nanny, and finding one on such short notice seemed impossible. Her rent was due, and every naira counted. Joy paced around the small one-bedroom apartment, glancing at Ebuka, who was fast asleep in his crib. She whispered to herself, "It's just a few hours. He will be fine. I'll be back before he wakes up." She hurried out, promising herself she would make it quick. The job turned out to be longer than expected. Her boss demanded she stay late to finish filing some important documents, and she didn't dare refuse. Every minute stretched her nerves tighter. She checked her phone repeatedly, but the time ticked away, and there was nothing she could do. Back at Joy's house, just 30 minutes after Joy left for work, her son Ebuka woke up and immediately started crying, but no one to attend to him. Joy had locked her room door and window before she left, and her neighbor wasn't around either. So Ebuka cried until his body was soaked with his tears and sweat because he was covered with a blanket. After some hours, he was totally weak, almost about to suffocate due to heat. Something strange happened. Back at the office, Joy had become so uncomfortable and worried about his little one, Ebuka. But because her boss left instructions for her and left, she couldn't plead for her to leave the office, and she dared not call her boss. By the time she left work, 8 hours had passed. Joy's eyes darted around her small one-bedroom apartment as she stood at the door, breathless. Her heart pounded in her chest. She immediately dropped her bag and rushed to the bed where she had left her 2-month-old son, Ebuka, just 8 hours earlier. The bed was empty. The blanket, once carefully wrapped around her baby, was crumpled on the floor. Chukwuebuka was gone. Panic set in immediately. She searched the room, lifting every item, peering into every corner, as if somehow her baby had rolled himself out of sight. But deep inside, Joy knew that wasn't possible. The room was too small. There was no window for him to crawl through, no doors left open, yet her baby was nowhere to be found. Her scream echoed down the narrow street outside as she ran out, shouting for help. "Ebuka, Ebuka, please!" Has anyone seen my son? Tears streamed down her face, her voice breaking with each call. Neighbors rushed out, alarmed, and joined in the search, combing the entire street. They looked in every alley, behind every door, but no one had seen or heard anything. Night fell, and Joy's hope began to wane. Exhausted, she returned to her empty room, her mind swirling with fear and confusion. She hadn't been gone for long, just 8 hours. How could a baby disappear without a trace? She collapsed on the floor, sobbing uncontrollably, her body shaking from the weight of her despair. The silence inside the room was deafening. It felt as if the walls were closing in, suffocating her. For the next 2 days, Joy searched tirelessly. She barely slept or ate, driven by the desperate hope that somehow her son would be found. She wandered through the busy streets of Lagos, showing anyone who would listen a picture of her son, asking if they had seen him. The noise of the bustling city seemed cruel to her as she moved through the crowds, her eyes scanning every face, every stroller, in hopes of finding Ebuka. By the 3rd day, Joy was a shadow of herself. Her body was weak, her legs heavy as she dragged herself through the market, calling out her son's name with whatever strength she had left. People had started to lose hope, offering her empty words of comfort. Some whispered that maybe someone had taken the baby, while others said perhaps it was time for her to let go. But Joy couldn't. She refused to believe that her son was gone forever. She returned to her apartment late that evening, her spirit completely broken. The room, now filled with darkness, seemed colder than ever. Joy sank to her knee in front of the bed, the very spot where she had last seen her baby. "Ebuka, where are you?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Then something strange happened. As Joy sat in silence, the room began to shift. A soft breeze fluttered through the air, even though the windows were shut. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up. She slowly lifted her head, and there, in the dim light of the room, she saw something impossible. Her son, Ebuka, he lay on the bed, right where she had left him days before, sleeping peacefully, as if he had never been gone. Joy blinked, her mind unable to process what her eyes were seeing. How could this be? She had searched everywhere. She had called out his name. She had cried and prayed, yet here he was, untouched, unharmed, his tiny chest rising and falling with each breath. She rushed to his side, scooping him up into her arms, her heart overwhelmed with a mixture of relief and confusion. She sobbed into his soft blanket, holding him close, refusing to let go. But something was different. As she held her son, she noticed a faint glow around him, a warmth that wasn't there before. His tiny eyes fluttered open, and for a moment, Joy felt as if he was looking straight into her soul with a wisdom far beyond his 2 months old of life. Ebuka had been gone for days, and yet here he was, safe, healthy, and mysteriously returned. The news of the miraculous return spread quickly throughout the neighborhood. People came from all around to see the child, to hear the story. How could a baby disappear for 3 days and then suddenly reappear in the same place without a single scratch? Many called it a miracle, while others whispered that Ebuka was not an ordinary child. Some said he was destined for greatness, that forces beyond this world had protected him and brought him back. Joy knew in her heart that something extraordinary had happened. Her son had been saved by a power she couldn't understand, something far greater than herself. Ebuka, her child, was a child of destiny, and no force in this world could take him from her now. From that day forward, Joy vowed never to leave her son alone again. She quit her job, seeking help from anyone who would support her. She found comfort in the local church, where people began to regard her child with a mix of awe and reverence. There was no explanation for what had happened, but one thing was clear: Ebuka was no ordinary boy. He had been touched by something divine, and his life was meant for something far beyond what anyone could imagine. Joy never forgot those days of terror, and as Ebuka grew, she made sure to protect him with every fiber of her being. But deep down, she knew that no matter what happened, her son would be always watched over by the same mysterious force that has saved him when he was just a baby. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to join the family, and turn on the notification bell for more interesting stories like this. Till I come your way again. Bye.